I am doing a frequently asked questions about using your own router with AT&T Fiber. I did a 2020 update for the new equipment that is now the BGW 210-700. It is slash Aris Motorola. So I did about 3 different videos covering my journey to where I'm at right now. And I get some frequently asked questions. I guess I would just start with the most recent one, where Michael Hernandez asked me, hey, noob here, I still don't understand why you change your IP address to a .0. Could you try explain again? Also, is it safe, necessary to disable Firewall even if the router has one? The reason why I changed it was because you have both systems that are giving out IP addresses. Okay. So you can't have two, well, in the IT world, we call them masters. This has nothing to do with, the Black Lives Matters things. So maybe eventually that'll get changed. But you can't have two masters assigning IP addresses because there's going to be a conflict. Okay, it says, no, I'm the master. I'm sending out addresses to the different computers and systems and routers and stuff that you have connected. Then the other one goes, no, I'm the master. So then you have a conflict. And when you have a conflict, that causes a whole bunch of weird network problems because it's just like you're jamming signals all over the place. Things are all over. You don't know what packets or what data is supposed to go to which computer or where. So it gets all messed up. And so I had to change the IP address, and I chose to change the IP address of the AT&T because I have all the other stuff on my side already set to the IP address that I had originally with the Netgear, which was the 192.168.1. series. Okay, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. You just can't be on the same. So from the AT&T router side, it was giving out assigning DHCP addresses out in the same setup as my Netgear. I couldn't have that. If I did that when I plugged in the Netgear, the conflict, right? So I changed it so it won't be the conflict. So when I plug something else in there, it will be on a different set of addresses. So the Aris 1, the Motorola Aris 1, has its own neighborhood, okay? And then underneath that neighborhood is where my Netgear router is. So it's separate versus the two of them together all trying to put out the same addresses. Okay, so now it's a separate one. Separate. Now, what's on top of that, what we're doing with the video where you're using your own router is that you have your own network address. It's assigning one to the Netgear Orbi, okay? But then when we do the pass-through, right? When we do the pass-through, it's going to go ahead and pass through the public IP address, right? From from AT&T. So it's a totally different IP address that gets passed through. But in order to configure all that, it all has to be in a separate IP. That's why. Now, if I were to start this all over again, and I didn't have all these other devices configured, I didn't necessarily need to change the IP address of. I would have probably, what I would have done, and what's more ideal, is to change my IP address range of my Netgear Orbi to something completely less likely to be hacked. Because 192.168.1 series is a highly targeted IP address range because it's a very popular range that's given out in a lot of routers, as is a bunch of other ones. All right, so the big name brands, Netgear, D-Link, right, Cisco, all of these, they all have default IP address ranges. All right. And then the other one was, is it safe or necessary to disable Firewall even if your router has one? Well, most of us, whether we know it or not, have multiple firewalls and stuff in place. So the reason why I disabled it from the AT&T was that I was not trusting this to handle my security very well. So what's the point in slowing the process down? Okay, so the example I gave here was about thinking it like airport security. Okay. So we have with multiple firewalls, it's like multiple security checkpoints. Now I'm using Google Images here. So everybody queues up in line, right? Your data that's coming in and out queues up through the security checkpoint line, right? It's a process. Every single packet or packet has to be inspected. They all have certain things that they're all trying to do, and it takes a little while to go through it, right? Regardless, it's going to slow things down a little bit because of whatever you're blocking. Okay, depends on the level of firewall, how smart they are. If they're just blocking specific things, like they say, oh, we're blocking all people who are trying to get you in with a black hat. So anybody that has a black hat doesn't get through, right? That's real simple and that won't take long. But sometimes it's like, well, what if someone looks like it's a military person? What is this person going to be in here? Is this from our country? Is this someone who we're expecting? We don't know. Let's inspect them a little bit further. Let's do the metal detector check, etc. So if both of them are configured to do the same thing, why bother having both on? You're just slowing down the process because you're going through one and the second one. But here's the thing. The Netgear one is, or at least it's configurable to be even more secure and modifiable. Okay, so they have something called Netgear Armor Security. I think Netgear. I don't have it enabled now, but I did. Okay, so Network Armor, Netgear Armor powered by Bitdefender. So that's a feature that you can enable on your Orbi, and that is even more thorough. Okay, will slow things down a little bit because of that, but you can configure certain things on it, right? So let's say you have kids in household and you don't want them to see anything violent. It's kind of like Google Images Safe Search. It'll filter out stuff that it considers to be questionable or not good enough, well, that wouldn't pass the parent approval rating. So you can configure certain things like that. So you can block certain traffic to certain websites, like let's say I don't want anybody to be surfing social media during the hours of this, and this, right? The firewall and the setup, you can configure all that. Whereas there's no such thing like that you can manually configure over in aT&T. So you just why bother having two, slowing down the process, when you could just have the one that handles both of it, and that one's actually backed by a cloud service from Netgear that you pay for to deal with that. I mean, there's other levels of security that you can put on there, and the reason why I turned all those things off is just to get the maximum speed that I'm paying for through before it gets to my router. That's pretty much what that one comes down to. Right, now I know I had a few other questions about some of the slowness with regards to aT&T and how come they're not getting decent speeds on there. And there could be many number of reasons for that. One of the things was I talked about how when I did my actual test from the aT&T direct from themselves, it was kind of slow. And what I had to do was I had to do a hard reset, and that's holding down the reset button for 30 seconds and then releasing, and that basically wipes everything out in the cable modem router. Okay, and then I did my own test to find out whether or not I was getting the speeds. And with my gigabit, I was supposed to be getting around over 900. Okay, so granted, depending on where you're at, how good your signal is, how congested the network is, you could potentially have something less, right? So your range could be anywhere from 400 up to 940, 950. Now, the reason why I pointed out 950, I knew something was wrong, was because obviously last year when I did the first video about how to do your aT&T fiber, I was expecting that to be my speed, and it should be based on the proximity where I'm at and the speed of the connection. I wasn't getting that. I was getting about half that. So doing the reset did that. But I did this video here. If you have some issues with your service, check out this video. Fiber service tech told me what's up in my neighborhood. They're the ones that go out service it. They know what's going on. He said usually it is the ONT. The ONT that is the problem. or some sort of damaged fiber lines that could potentially be a problem. But that's not something you can control. That requires AT&T anyway. So what I advise people to do is to go on to AT&T management, manage your network, and then just say that you have a cable internet problem. It'll pop up like right on the screen somewhere. It'll say, test your lines, or you have a problem with internet, and it'll run some tests. It'll take a little while. It'll recommend some actions. Do those recommended actions, and we're still getting a really bad connection from directly. Okay, you do this directly from your AT&T modem router with nothing else connected. Okay, just keep it clean. Don't connect other things in there, and test it. If you're not getting close to your advertised speeds at least some of the time, then there's something wrong. Okay, the second thing. Let's see. Okay, so the second thing. So this video here, I did a follow-up video on July 23rd. Was about about how to change your IP address network back, addressing slow speed, some other frequently asked questions. And someone else was asking about how come their speeds appear to be slower than the AT&T one. Okay, so what I found was the AT&T one tends to be pretty good when you're relatively close to it. Okay, so if you have a small house and you're fine with the speeds, don't even worry about it. You don't necessarily, I mean, you are a more casual user and it's not affecting your day-to-day life. Is there a need to spend the $300 like I did starting out for the Netgear Orbi router system? No, not really. You don't have to do that. You just use it. Where people are getting the maximum benefit of this is if you do use a lot and you upload a lot, like I upload a lot of my videos, YouTube, I do backups, right? Those things need to get the maximum speed, or at least faster speed without running the wire. If you can run the wire to whatever computer or closer to wherever your computer is, you're going to get much better performance that way. I went the mesh router system way. And for that, I'll show you what my speed test is right now. So with my current configuration, and your speed test will also again vary depending on which server it happens to be connecting to. So in this case, I've never connected to this server before. Okay, so I am getting about 500 for something. Okay, so it's going to have a average right here soon. So I'm doing this off of my mesh system. That's about half of what I would get if I was wired directly to the my Netgear or router without going through the Wi-Fi. So this is coming through the Wi-Fi backhaul back to me. So this is kind of what I expect. Someone else was asking, hey Mike, I'm getting about 300 something or 400 up or down my new Samsung or my new iPhone. And yeah, those are similar results to what I get on the 802.11 AC. We're not talking about Wi-Fi 6 here. Wi-Fi 6, you might get better results and faster results. But if your day-to-day, you're not even using up all this speed, does it really matter? Unless you just have the money to burn, go ahead and do that. So I might be trying out a few 802.11ax Wi-Fi 6 systems in the future. And maybe I'll report back. I'm thinking about checking to see where most of you guys shop at. And it seems like a lot of people on my YouTube channel tend to go to Costco a lot. So I might just pick up something from Costco to test that out and see if that makes a difference or not. Okay. So let's see what other frequently asked question was there. Nope, no questions on that one. Sometimes rebooting. Okay, so when you reset your, if you're going to reset your AT&T modem router, one of the troubleshooting things too is also reboot or reset your own router too, roughly around the same time before plugging them back in. That often resolves a lot of issues, random issues that you might have. One thing you could do before you do all that is you can save your settings somewhere and then load those configurations. Then you can kind of find out later on whether or not it's something that you configured that was separately messing something up. That's also possible too. Let's see what's going on here. Questions over here. I think I've answered a couple of other ones here too. 802.11 AC picks up 500 up, down, and up. Mhm. Yep, address that one. AT&T speed. Oh yeah, another frequently asked question, strangely enough, is I guess I really need to lay down exactly when I was saying, well, what is the connection between the AT&T modem router in my video to your Netgear thing? So basically, you connect your LAN port from the AT&T modem. Okay, let's see if I can show the video about that one. What the connection is there. Okay, so let me turn this down here and show you. Okay, so this is your AT&T. What you're doing is you're connecting one of these Ethernet ports out. Okay, you're connecting from one of here, so 1 to 4. You're connecting that one out to your router. And in my case with the Netgear, that would be the Netgear WAN port. That's why I have this picture here. So WAN port, WAN, stands for Wide Area Network. You're going from the local area network port on the AT&T to the WAN port. There's only one of them on my Netgear. You might be lucky enough, or you might have a more enterprise office class system where it has 2 WAN ports, but you can pick one of them. But yeah, that's where it goes. Because I was not setting my system up as an access point. I'm setting it up as the actual router that gets the pass-through. I think that answers most of the questions. I think this would have helped a lot of people, particularly people who are further away from their AT&T and they need a faster internet. So that makes sense to get the new one. Oh yeah, there is also this one other case where someone was getting slower speeds than their AT&T, and that for that particular case, it was because that one Wi-Fi router was known to have better long-range performance, but poor close-range performance. I know that sounds really weird, but think of the Wi-Fi when the signals and the antennas are beamforming and sending out the signals. Some of them are more optimized to be further away than close. Think of it kind of like a focus, like a lens focus, where it focuses kind of a range of where it's supposed to pick up the signals and send the signals a little bit better. Another thing you might be finding out is that if you're only maxing out at a certain speed, that could be because you're running at the 2.4 gigahertz or you're connecting to the 2.4 gigahertz range. And what you really want is the 5 gigahertz. The 2.4 gigahertz, you're going to have better range, okay, but it's going to be slower speed, and 5 gigahertz is going to typically have a shorter range, but you're going to get the faster speeds at the 5 gigahertz. Okay, so you might want to consider that. Some let's just say some wireless routers have that option for you to have the 2 separate signals, and you can just label it, 2.24 or something else, and then the other one 5 gigahertz. That's usually what I do to differentiate those and make sure you're connecting to the right one. One other thing about how someone was talking to me about their Netgear Orbi setup and how come it was not doing as well. When you have a mesh system, there's different ways to configure it, but typically what will happen is when you set up the Wi-Fi or connect the first time to the Wi-Fi, you're going to be connecting to the satellite closest to where it's at. So if you move out of range of that, but it's still connected to it, you're going to have less performance versus disconnecting and reconnecting, but in this case then connecting back to the mesh that is closer to you. So try that. Disconnect from the Wi-Fi, okay, and reconnect to the Wi-Fi, and pick the one that's closest to you when you do that. That way, that could account for some of the reasons why your speeds are a lot slower versus the AT&T wherever it is. And there's even more configuration options you can do. You could do an octopus configuration. You can do one that is daisy linked connection. It really depends on your property. I won't go into too far details about that because maybe not everybody's using a mesh network. Sorry, my audio got cut. I disconnected my microphone by mistake. All right, one final thing I wanted to share with you about configuring potentially faster internet is to use your own DNS server, use a third-party DNS server. And the ones that I am testing and using right now is by Cloudflare, okay, and then by OpenDNS and all Google. So if you just pick any of these two sets of numbers and replace them on your DNS domain name server settings under Internet Setup in Basic of Netgear Orbi. So it's, again, you just, when you log in and in first page, go to Internet, go to the DNS settings, see dynamic name server addresses, get these DNS servers, choose one of these. Choose two of them, because usually there's a primary DNS and a secondary DNS. This one happens to have three. You can pick any of those. Some of the benefits, so for instance, I talked about it but wasn't recorded. OpenDNS is now part of Cisco. There's a free one, pre-configured to block adult content. For Family Shield, there's a free one for Classic Free Service, customizable filtering, and basic protection. All of these are free. You can configure those separately if you like. If you're going to configure one of these separately, they will tell you exactly how to do that. But I went ahead and chose the free Cloudflare one, which is 1.1.1.1, very easy. And then there's also the Google one, which is 8.8.8.8, and they also have 8.8.4.4. Basically, pick a different DNS, and that will give you potentially faster internet service and more reliable browsing. Okay, so there's some other examples of what you get in the different settings and setup. Let's say if you went with just specifically OpenDNS, and then if you're gonna do this, you're gonna pay for it. What you're gonna do is you're gonna set up all the DNS settings the way OpenDNS tells you to, and then log in and sign up. So the Netgear Armor security plan actually includes some of that, and it links directly with the OpenDNS, and they give you protection that way, all at once, for basically all your devices that are connected to your Netgear. I don't know what the pricing is. Oh, here we go, $69.99 a year, and that is not bad for protection. That gives you the unlimited device protection for everything connected on your network, also for your your smartphones when you're out and abroad as well. It gives you some sort of protection, and even has a little VPN. Apparently, they only give you 200 megabytes of free encrypted data traffic per day. VPNs are very useful if you're out and traveling about on an unsecured public network. Granted, now with Corona, we're not doing a lot of this, but if you find yourself outside connecting to a Starbucks open Wi-Fi, and you need to get into your bank account stuff, you should turn on a VPN to do that. But that's a whole separate video. All right, that's all I'm going to cover this video. It's time for me to jump on a meeting for work. Please like and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you in the next video. If you have any other questions, go ahead, just put it in the comments. You can tweet me, Twitter at MikeMu, at MIKEMU. I also have a website. I think there's a contact page in here somewhere. You can go ahead and contact me there and ask me a question. Please don't go to my old site and ask me questions there, because my old site is now no longer. Let's see if it's still here. Oh yeah, no, it forwards now. Okay, so I have an old site at mikemu.com. Don't contact me there, because I don't get around to answering questions there, and I stopped posting this a while ago. Yeah, it's been about a year now. All right, please give us a like, subscribe for more, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.